Hey there YouTube, Raj here, and I've got another video for you today. I'm going to be taking a look at some samples, giving you my initial impressions on them. Got some really interesting ones in here, which I have worn each of them once. So I picked these samples up from the shop Bois. Bois are becoming quite a well-known brand in the kind of niche fragrance industry. They have a store here in London, which I've been to a couple of times. They have one in Paris. They have a few others around the world as well, and they actually have their own line of fragrances, and they really specialize in sort of high-end niche fragrances. And in today's video, I'm going to be taking a look at giving you my initial thoughts on some samples that I picked up. As you can see, just over my shoulder, they come in a little sort of a cardboard box, and they also come in this little pouch here, which is quite neat. So there's different ways of getting samples from Bois. You can go to the store and they'll happily decant them for you on the spot, which is pretty nice. Or you can buy them on their website, and I think everything is kind of accessible, and it's a great way of getting your nose on on fragrances that are maybe harder to find or you're not too sure about. And sampling for me is just one of the best ways of getting to know a fragrance, and I don't really go in from blind buying. So today I'm going to be taking a look at 4 samples. One which is my scent of the day from Fragrance du Bois, and it's called Sahraa Oud. That's the spray-on one, not the oil. I'm also going to be taking a look at a couple of fragrances from a brand that I've known for a while and have sampled their original line. The brand is called Rania J. Gonna take a look at, give you my thoughts on Cuir Andalusia, or Andalous, I'll check in a second, and also Tea Habanero, and also a fairly new discovery for me, but one that has really, I gotta say, I'm really loving, from Franck Muller, the watch brand, and it's called Conquistador. So I'll start off with Sahraa Oud. So they come in samples like this. Kind of smallish samples, but some of them are larger. So this is my scent of the day. Fragrance du Bois, they specialize in oud. They originate from Southeast Asia, or they certainly have a plantation based in Southeast Asia where they grow their own organic oud oil. It's not wild oud, and the fragrances are certainly pricey. This 100 ml goes for £595, so we're talking big money here. It's a lovely fragrance. Sahraa Oud from start until the end. I really like it. I need to test this one, shall I say, properly. It's my scent of the day. I did one spray here and one spray here. Small little sprays, and they're lasting nicely. What I get from Sahraa Oud is this wonderful honey ambery accord. There's a oud in there which, you know, it's blended in really nicely. It's hard to pick it out exactly and say this is the oud and it's front and center, but it's blended in there nicely to give this wonderful woody, smoky aroma. There's a lot of notes going on in here, certainly on the more exotic side. Sahraa Oud really was captivating and develops really nicely on my skin. Just smelling the nozzle here, I can just get a little bit from here. Performance was good on my skin, but I was kind of hoping I would get a little bit more. Maybe when I do a couple of sprays on the chest and a few more around the body, maybe hit up the clothes, I'll get a little bit more, a better performance. But performance is good and scent is really fantastic. Is it worth £600? You know, it comes in a 50 ml if you want to spend less, and it comes in a 15 ml serum pen, which is the same scent as this. It also comes in a pure oud oil format. It's a lot of money, but I'm really enjoying the scent. I'm gonna do a little bit more wearings and wear this completely, then give you my sort of proper review. I've also tried from this. I've also got a sample of Parisian oud, which I'm really liking, and I definitely will review that. So that's the first one from Fragrance du Bois, Sahraa Oud. Secondly, going on to the Rania J. So I had samples from the line Rania J quite a few years ago. I went through them all, and I actually never spoke about them on YouTube. I'm not quite sure why I didn't speak about these fragrances, because they're definitely ones with a lot of character. They're definitely fragrances that are quite, I would say, like, they have a unique style. Like when you smell a Rania J, you know what you're smelling. Ombre Loup is fantastic. Lavande 44, Oud Assam, these are all really interesting. So this one Cuir Andalou. I'm actually going to do a fresh spray for you now just to get my head around it. I don't know exactly. I've seen like one interview, I believe, from Rania, and I believe she's somewhere from, I don't know, where is it, like Morocco or maybe Iran? I know it's completely different countries, but somewhere along those lines. So Cuir Andalou, I've just done a fresh spray. I'm going to let that settle on the skin for a second, and I'm also going to do a spray of tea habanero. And yeah, these are really beautiful fragrances. I have to say, there's some nice complexity in there. There's some nice depth, and they definitely are quite. I would say a lot of them can be quite bold. So you've got to take that in mind. So tea habanero. Let's do a little fresh spray. The sprays on these are fairly decent, and I think you get like 1 ml or yeah, you just get 1 ml. I mean, it's a decent size. Okay, so let's go on to Cuir Andalou. So I haven't done much reading on this, but I believe, Cuir obviously is leather. Andalou, maybe a reference to Andalusia, maybe Spanish influence, maybe. So with this one, it's a really beautiful blend of green, leathery accords in here, which I'm really, really liking. There is a touch in here of, as the fragrance develops, I get a feeling of violet, and it's kind of bringing to mind a fragrance from the brand Armani. And Armani have a Privé line, and they have a fragrance which I used to own called Cuir Amethyst. And I'm kind of getting that kind of smooth, slightly smoky leather, but it's also not harsh. As I said, it's very, very smooth. And it's warm and ambery, and Rania J often uses these kinds of notes. Like, she likes the use of leather and amber and spices, and it's very, very nice. I have to say, I'm really looking forward to trying this one in a bit more depth, and yeah, I think this one could be an interesting one. I'll come on to it in a second. I'll come back to it again, but I'll give you now my thoughts, initial impressions on tea habanero. And tea habanero, if you have smelled oud Assam from the brand, which is definitely a more potent oud, it's kind of like that, but without the oud in it. And also, it kind of reminds me, as the fragrance develops, there's a little bit of, and also in Cuir Andalou also, there's kind of a touch of Roger Parfum's oud, not amber oud or not musk oud, but the original oud. It's kind of in there. This is like spicy pink peppercorns. This is a little bit of tobacco in there. It really actually does smell like tobacco flower. So when I was in Cuba, this is actually my last visit to Cuba 3 years ago, not the most recent one that I was on. I smelled this tobacco flower based men's fragrance, which apparently they say a lot of the farmers in Cuba will wear this type of fragrance. I'm not quite sure how true that is, but it does kind of give me that feeling of that kind of aromatic, earthy tobacco note in there. Fairly realistic, I would say. Cigar leaf, dried out, kind of like that. It's a really nice fragrance. There's definitely a touch of lavender in there. I'm getting also vibes of Lavande 44. So definitely some DNA that is to be found within this brand that seems to carry its way across, or is found in all the rest of the line. I'll come back to this after it's settled slightly. And finally, going on to a fragrance from the brand Franck Muller. And Franck Muller is a watch brand, and I'd seen their fragrances. They're quite the design of the whole design behind this perfume brand is based on the watches, which are quite sort of loud. The dials are, interesting shape. The numbers on the dials are quite bold and can be quite quirky. And so they have recently set up this line. This brand can be found obviously in Javoy, in Fortnum and Mason here in the UK. Not quite sure about international distribution, but I think that's going to be happening soon. And this fragrance is Conquistador, which I have to say, from first spray, this was something really, really special. I'm really loving this, and I cannot wait to wear it properly and get into a review of this. But just so smooth from the opening. This is basically cognac. There's iris. I don't know the full breakdown. I need to check, but maybe a little bit of leather in here. I'm getting basically a smoother version of Dior Homme Parfum, which I'm not sure whether it's still around or not, whether maybe it's discontinued. But it is so buttery smooth, and the cognac note in here smells more like what I imagine a barrel of cognac once all the liquid is left, and you're left with the barrel, the woodiness, which has soaked up this cognac. And there's also a really wonderful and also slightly subtle gingerbread note in here, which took me by surprise. It adds a biscuity, cookie-like element to this. This is very much a gourmand fragrance without being overly sweet. It's really, really lovely, I've got to say. Quite, I would say, one that maybe a lot of people will be drawn to. It has that mass appeal factor, but is interesting and is very sort of niche as well. But yeah, you know, Dior Homme with that iris leather, the Parfum version, kind of is in there. So yeah, some really interesting fragrances here. Sahraa Oud, as I mentioned at the start, I really enjoyed the honey-like sweetness, the ambery qualities, the more oriental notes coming through. And if we go back to, let's go back to Cuir Andalou from Rania J. There's almost like a herbal, like a almost aromatic quality in here, which I quite like. I wouldn't say it's blowing me away, but I think it's well made, and I definitely need to give this one a bit more of a go. Tea Habanero is quite interesting. There is a fragrance from Check and Speak, which I believe is just called Cuba, which is kind of in this vein, I would say. I need to go back to that one, actually. I used to have a sample. Yeah, it's interesting. I would have maybe have liked to have seen. Apparently, this has chili in it. I don't really get that. I would have maybe preferred to have. I would have preferred to have maybe smelled this one to have been a little bit different to Udasam, a little bit more different to Lavon 44, but still well made. I definitely need to try it out a bit more, but I'm enjoying it for sure. Conquistador is my favourite of this this bunch that I've got, and I don't know, this could be full bottle worthy. They come in 75 ml bottles, sell for about £170. It's bready, it's like doughy, but like a sort of liqueur vibe, like a cognac vibe, you know, alcoholic, boozy. The iris in there is so luxurious and just very, very supple and buttery. It's really, really nicely done. So guys, I got some, you know, some good stuff in here from Chavoy. I also picked up a few other samples from Parfum MDCI, and what I think that was it. Yeah, I got Invasion Barbar and Le Barbier or Tangier, something like that. The Moroccan the barber from Tangier in Morocco. So I need to test those ones a little bit. But yeah, let me know your thoughts, guys. Have you tried these fragrances? What do you think about them? What about the ones I've tried just now? Fragrance de Bois, do you think they're worth it? Rania J, do you like that DNA? And Franck Muller, have you ever heard of this brand? Maybe you own one of their watches. Whatever you have to say, drop a comment down below. If you like what you see, hit the like button and subscribe. And also check me out on Instagram. And yeah, you know, I will see you on the next video. Thanks a lot for watching. As always, I really appreciate your support. And take care. I'll see you on the next one. Bye.